Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shots Fired podcast. We're going to be bringing you another update with the attempted Trump assassination. There's been more information, more videos being released. We've told you guys from the beginning that we only want to report on things that are facts and not hearsay and things that we just hear on the mainstream media, because we all know that sometimes that is not true. So there has been cell phone footage released. Everybody's wondering about this guy on the roof, why he wasn't taken out. And we're going to explain to you from a cop's perspective why that didn't happen and the breakdown of communication that occurred and how that also happened. Mark worked on a full-time metropolitan city SWAT team. You guys dealt with these exact type situations with the presidents coming to town, vice president coming to town, rallies. And Mark is going to explain to you guys how that communication happens, what is the op planning between the local authorities and the Secret Service. Mark, tell everybody, we're going to waste no time, how all that happens, and just jump into it.
All right, so working at a major metropolitan city full-time SWAT team, we did a lot of stuff that dealt with dignitary protection. We did protection for Mike Pence, the Clintons, the Dalai Lama, Mexican president, and other people that came to town that were of high profile. The reality is there's not a lot of stuff that goes into this. For one example, a high-profile person that came into town, Secret Service were there. They communicated and contacted us days before, said, this is what we are doing, this is where we're going. And believe me, they gave us information, but it was not a lot of information. It was the bare minimum, though they knew and we knew they had a lot more information. We met with them, and then they said, this is what we expect of you. This is what you can kind of expect from us. This is our rally point. This is where we're coming in. These are our exits. This is our backup exit. If this happens, this is what we want you to do. Our team was clear on that. We did not get their radios. We had no communication from them. We didn't know what they were saying, where their team was. We knew they were there days in advance, scouting, keeping eyes on the location.
Hold on. By they, you're talking about the Secret Service.
Yes.
Okay. Just so everybody's aware.
They communicated with us, but we didn't have their communications. Like, we didn't have their radios. We didn't have the ability to listen to what they were saying. So what we did to kind of have some communication is we gave them one of our radios. So we were kind of in the dark. If something was going on, we would report it. Somebody else from the Secret Service would have our radio and their radio. They would listen to that, triage that, and put that information out to their radio, and vice versa. So the planning aspects of this, there was not a lot involved in that. I mean, we had a couple days to plan, create our responsibilities and roles. But it's not like what people are thinking, that you're out there for days and there's like schematics and all this stuff, and you have 60 personnel at this corner, and it doesn't work like that. Not with local law enforcement.
Okay, so there's been cell phone footage released of the suspect crawling up the roof, and people are screaming at the local law enforcement officers that are standing there on the ground. We want to break the video down for you from a law enforcement perspective and tell you exactly what is happening.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And still up here with you fighting like hell to get us sent.
What's happening? Yeah, look. There he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it.
What happened to
our country? Probably 20 good people. And you know, that's a little bit of he's going down!
He's on top of the roof. Don't go over there.
Okay, so we just watched the video, the cell phone footage. Kyle, what's your thoughts on this? What's happening in your mind as being an officer in that position?
Okay, so look, I'm trying to be realistic about this, and I'm putting myself in these cops' shoes that are boots on the ground at this rally. It's loud. From all accounts, from witness statements that were in that grassy area, they couldn't see Trump, but they could hear it. And there's thousands of people there, okay? I'm putting myself in that cop's shoes, and you have all these people saying, he's on the roof. There's like, hey, there's even, you can tell in their voice that they're even questioning like what is going on. They're like, hey, this guy's on the roof. Like, I think they think it's weird. And albeit you're at a presidential rally, like he's a former president. Look, there hasn't been an assassination attempt in over 40 years. I truly don't think even anybody standing there, to include the police officers, thought that somebody was on the roof to try to do harm to people. I don't think that that was the initial thought that was going through their mind. I don't know because I wasn't there. I'm only going off of if I were there and I'm judging what the reaction of the cops, what happened. And you can see in the video when they start saying that there's someone on the roof, a deputy goes and he starts to go around the building. We don't know if he was trying to get better eyes on this guy. We don't know if he was trying to get a better vantage point to get on the roof to tell this guy maybe to get off the roof. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to cut him off. We don't know. But you can see the suspect low crawling up that roof. And in the video, you can't see the gun. People are saying, hey, it was clear that he had a firearm or that he had a rifle. I don't think at that moment they could see that. They probably saw it later on. We don't know. This guy could have had that rifle concealed in under his shirt, his waistband, and pulled it out last second. He could have had that thing sliding up on the roof as he's sliding up to kind of conceal it. But it's clear that people are confused. I try to like put myself in that situation, and realistically, if we're being honest, I would probably assume that it was some fan or somebody that was trying to get a better view of Trump, maybe because they couldn't see him and they just wanted to get a better view of him. That would probably be my initial thought. Now, as a law enforcement officer, I would definitely think that that's weird. And I would know that, well, we can't have somebody on the roof of this rally for obvious reasons, but there's so many other things that would probably be going through my head. And I think that's what happened. And then ultimately, people start now seeing the gun. You can hear in the video, they're saying he's got a gun. So I think everybody, and I think the law enforcement officials that were there on scene around that building, I think they thought that it was just a spectator getting on the building when this first happened.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. Putting myself in that perspective, working large events and protests and situations where there's large crowds with somebody speaking and you're in the back, being an officer, you're there. The person's likely on overtime. Maybe he worked the night before. He's looking around, paying attention. He's getting people telling him there's somebody on the roof. That's his responsibility, that area. He probably looks up, which I would be looking up, see somebody crawling on the roof. And my first thought would be like, are you serious? There's somebody on the roof. The next thought would be going through my mind would be, I hope other people aren't seeing this. That's going to draw attention and have more people climb up on this roof, because you're right. They are really far back. They can only hear and they can't see. So from that advantage point, they could see. And my thought would be, oh no, lots of people are going to crawl on this roof. And then you're going to start going over, trying to figure that out. And he's probably communicating with the other officers saying, hey, I'm getting reports back here. There's somebody crawling on a rooftop. And I think that's where the chain of events kind of start happening with the sniper and the next person. But there's other reports that are coming out about, you want to share about the person being hoisted? Yeah.
So now, okay, it's been confirmed that the deputy was hoisted on the roof. I don't know what that means. That's what's being used in the news, is that, and the sheriff, his own terms was that the deputy was hoisted on the roof, and that's when the suspect pointed the rifle at the deputy and the deputy retreated. Again, we don't know exactly what happened. I don't know. Let's just walk through this. If I'm being hoisted on the roof, just trying to figure out what this guy's doing, I don't know if the deputy got hoisted on that roof to tell the guy to get off the roof, not thinking that there was a threat. If he didn't have his gun out and put himself in a position to be able to even give effective fire, and someone points a rifle at me, I'm sorry. Your natural reaction is to you're going to duck. Yeah. You're going to duck. You're going to get down, because what would be the point of getting shot in the face if you have zero way to effectively return fire or do anything about it? And I think that's where people are really not being realistic about this, is your natural reaction as a human being when someone points a firearm at you, a rifle, is to duck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just brutally honest. And like, look, we've said it so many times on other podcasts and stuff. Is like, dude, we've been in shootings. Like, people have shot at us. That is a realistic reality of someone doing that to you. It's human nature.
Yeah.
Now, if he were to been hoisted up, had his firearm drawn, ready to go, he's like thinking he's going to be presented with a threat, and he retreats, then we're talking about something completely different. But we can't sit there and say either which way because we don't know. And his own sheriff came out and publicly gave a statement backing that deputy and said, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I saw that. And it takes a lot of courage for the sheriff to come out and report that right away. We talked about that earlier. I put myself in the perspective of that officer being hoisted up. You've trained it. I've trained it. Almost all cops have trained. How do you pick up another officer and lift them up to a different position where they could see higher, or they could climb up on a Connex box or onto a rooftop? You generally do it with two people, and then you're lifting that person up and they're moving around, and you're trying to like hold the wall and climb up and support yourself so you don't fall. Mm-hmm. So my thought would be, people are thinking he's on the roof. We need to tell him to get down. And if I'm going to be hoisted up, and to be honest, I've never trained being hoisted up with my gun out because I'm concerned about falling, holding on something. Am I going to hit somebody? Am I going to laser someone with a gun? I almost think if I'm in that position, my gun's not out. I'm going to try and grab that rooftop, peek my head up, and address that threat. And if a gun's pointed at me, absolutely, I am ducking immediately. You're in no position to protect yourself. That's just the reality. And if that's the reality,
I find it hard to believe that if that deputy knew that that guy was armed, he would have just peeked his head up over. I mean, you're
not going to. If
I don't think you
armed,
are.
You're not doing that. That's just not a tactic you would do.
So let's talk about, all these people you can hear him on the video. They're saying he's got a gun. He's got a gun. We don't know that deputy wasn't already around the other side of that building. He's not going to hear those people saying that. And there's no way to communicate that to the cop. If the citizen saw the gun, but the cop didn't see the gun, how is he to know that? Now, you mentioned earlier about the communication piece with Secret Service not giving you guys radios. You guys had to give them radios. Here's where people are upset about as well. And I want to talk about is they're like, okay, the deputy radioed to the Secret Service that this dude had a gun. That, folks, communication takes a while to break down. And you've got the snipers on Overwatch, which we're going to get into, behind Trump, who ultimately took those shots that we've all seen. But that level of communication takes a long time. And when you are at an event where that is the last thing that you expect, and let's be honest, I think that was the last thing that anybody expected. It doesn't happen all the time. When someone says that over the radio, that's going to take you a second to comprehend what you just heard. People are probably going to second guess what they think they heard. And now it just becomes a state of confusion about who said it, where is it coming from. The whole communication piece of this thing, I think, is the ultimate breakdown into why this happened. And I'm just going to come out and say it. This 20-year-old nerd who took these shots, he got lucky. He exploited and found a loophole in the security, and he took advantage of it. And he got lucky. Yeah. And I think he knew exactly what the outcome was going to be as soon as he fired those shots. And I think as soon as people started yelling he had a gun, that deputy pokes his head up over the roof. He's been caught. I think he just starts firing those shots.
Yeah.
Unfortunately killing somebody.
Well, let's talk about some of that with the sniper aspect and the response to that. So to break it down, you have different teams that have different fields of responsibility. And you have the snipers, which are overlooked. They're at positions of advantage at a distance, so they have a bigger viewpoint. And their responsibility is overlooking the entire picture. Each of the teams, generally, you would have a sniper, and then you have your observer with you. You go in pairs. In this situation, we saw the cell phone video. There's 2 officers on the rooftop and 2 rifles. It's possible they both took rifles because depending on how long they have been there, one person's going to get tired and need relief, so they're going to switch roles, and you're going to have your own specific rifle. You're not going to share a rifle. It doesn't work like that. You have your own. So that's probably why they had both. But in a situation like this, my belief and assumption of what's happening is you're getting some type of commotion that's happening over this rooftop. Maybe somebody's reporting it to the officers are reporting it. The chain of command goes from the outer perimeter, which is the officers, goes to Secret Service, and then it gets relayed to the sniper team. Either way, the sniper team's observations are going to be drawn to that corner through radio or commotion that they're seeing. They are not looking through the scope the entire time. It doesn't happen like that. You could power back or out some, but you're not going to be looking through the scope the entire time because you're going to be lasering normal people, and you would not do that. So you're going to be looking through your binoculars and looking. Once you identify that there is a problem, then if it's a threat or you believe it may become a threat, then you're going to look through your scope and actually start to zero in and get your crosshairs on that to identify exactly what's happening. Now, we've seen reports of 120, 130 yards. It's going to take a few seconds, even if you're really precise at your rifle, to figure out exactly what's happening, what the commotion is there radio communication, is this a threat? Now I want to bring my gun up. And now, depending on the states, well, any state, your gun is now pointed at somebody. So you have to have justification if you're going to shoot someone. And now you're looking through the scope, get your crosshairs, identify that there's a threat. Most likely, it's reactionary. And if you look at the pitch of the roof, that person was crawling up on the back side, so the sniper team isn't going to see that person until they peek over the top, and then they're going to have to process exactly what's happening. Is there a threat? Most likely, my belief is shots rang off, and then they responded to that. It's not most likely not going to be, it's going to be reactionary.
Well, and if you look at the kid's clothing, he's wearing a light gray shirt and khaki colored pants, and that roof looked like a whitish, really light color roof. And so he kind of blends in a little bit.
And you can't just look at something, think it's a threat, and shoot that person. That's just, there's no justification for that. Even through presidential, none of that, you can do that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on next is people are then asking, okay, why didn't the cops just, shoot the threat? You can't just do that, right? Like we can't just be out here shooting people. You have to have articulation and justification to be able to shoot somebody. Does this guy have the ability to carry out the threat that he's going to carry out? What's his intent? Does he have the means to carry it out? I mean, you have to be able to articulate all of that before using lethal force on somebody. The mere fact that this dude was low crawling up a roof does not give you justification to shoot him.
Yeah.
The officers would have to see a firearm, identify that, and then I think at that point, now you have definite articulation to use deadly force. You've got a guy on a roof, he's low crawling, he has a rifle, and you're at a presidential campaign rally. That to me is justification. I just think we needed to break this down in the most simplistic form because everybody's overthinking this. They're giving out all these wild theories, and these are the facts that we're seeing. This is the video footage that we're showing. You've been a part of these things before. You know the operational planning behind it. It's not as big as everybody thinks. There's not 1,000 Secret Service agents out there that are covering every rooftop. This isn't the movie Shooter. And I think that's probably what's skewing everybody. We're really trying to give you all the most basic breakdown of all of this and just from our own perspective in law enforcement and how this could have happened. What did the cops do? Why did they do what they did? And probably what they were thinking at the time. It's unfortunate. Look, at the end of the day, too, a guy lost his life attending an event with his family, trying to enjoy the day, who, by all accounts, was killed shielding his own family. You've got people out there making T-shirts over this the same day that it happened, trying to make a profit off of it. It's just, this whole thing has gotten wild. You've got people that are just saying all sorts of things. You got, whatever. Our channel's not about that. We're just here to report what we think the facts are from a law enforcement perspective. We don't get political. We are very unbiased. That's our own standpoint. I don't know what else to say about it.
So this incident, it is horrific that it happened, but please know that this is our perspective from our experience being law enforcement officers looking at what we have just seen. That's what we're reporting. We're sharing the information that we know based off of our experience.
Yeah, I think a lot is going to be learned from this. Should it ever happen again? No, it shouldn't. Will it happen again at some point in our lifetime? I don't know. Maybe, probably. But I think we're going to learn a lot from this event. And I think the ultimate breakdown of this whole thing was lack of security and communication.
Yep. I think there's a delay in communication. most incidents are reactionary. And to be honest, our hearts go out to the family members that were injured and lost their lives in this. There's nothing but tragedy in this.
We're going to see you guys on the next show. We'll see what information comes out next. If we're going to keep doing updates on these videos. If you guys like it, please drop a comment, like the video. Let us know what you think about all of this. And we will see you guys on the next video.
See ya.